Ladies and gentlemen, unless you've been living under a square-sized rock for the last several months, you know a new Minecraft movie just came out this weekend. And I don't know if it was the joy in my kids' eyes, if it was perhaps how lackluster 2025 has been so far for movies for me, or if it was maybe just Jason Momoa. I kind of love this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you, of course. Now, we're doing a movie review, pretty brief today, for the new A Minecraft movie that just came out this past weekend. I took my kids to see it today, which as I'm recording is Sunday. And the news also just broke recently that this movie has already made back its budget. Worldwide, it's made over $300 million already. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, although if you've played Minecraft or if you're even vaguely familiar with it, you're already pretty much spoiled because the movie is essentially a reimagining of the gameplay with a ton of Easter eggs. But it also has some really cool new additions to the mix, mostly in the form of our human characters. Let's talk about it. Four misfits find themselves struggling with ordinary problems when they are suddenly pulled through a mysterious portal into the overworld, a bizarre cubic wonderland that thrives on imagination. Now look, it should be said at the top of my review here that I am not a Minecraft player. However, my boys are. I have two sons. Both of them freaking love this thing. My 11-year-old son has been playing it for the better part of like 5 or 6 years, and he still plays it. And then my youngest son, who is 6 years old, has recently got into the game, like in the last 6 months or so. So I knew when the Minecraft movie was coming out that we would be going to see it. And essentially, I felt like I was kind of being dragged to this movie. So much to my surprise, I was kind of flabbergasted at how much I was enjoying this film throughout. I know a lot of friends of mine in the community have not spoken very highly of the film. Even on Rotten Tomatoes, I was surprised to see that it was at a 48% currently from critics, but a pretty large gap to the audience score. As I'm recording, it sits at an 87%. Now, the story is not why we're here. That's not why I enjoyed it. That's not why probably the majority of people are going to enjoy it. The story itself, the screenplay, if you will, is very formulaic, very basic. And it's basically just a vehicle to get the audience into that Minecraft world. Now, being that I am a common observer of the game and I don't know a lot of the lingo of the game, it was really cool to have my 11-year-old son there with me as he was sitting right next to me. And anytime an Easter egg or kind of a hidden callback to the game would show up, he would literally nudge me, lean over to me, and whisper in my ear as to why that character or thing was important to Minecraft and how cool it was that it showed up in the movie. The film is credited with 4 screenwriters and 3 additional storyboard writers. And the reason I mentioned what my son was telling me there is because to me it's evident that the folks that wrote this story were very familiar with the game. And even though it's going to make a crap ton of money and already has and could very easily be seen as a cash grab, it is obvious to me that the folks that wrote this story and that came up with this movie loved the game and they wanted it to be true to the game and they wanted to have the authenticity of it. They didn't just drop in a bunch of creepers and Steve and a couple other things that we might be familiar with and call it a day. They really went out of their way to make this very, very specific to anyone that is familiar with the game or the Minecraft world. And I find that very commendable, and that's easily a positive for me in my review. So knowing that my son loved it as that Minecraft enthusiast that he is, then it's also interesting to me that I loved it and my wife also really enjoyed it. The two of us do not play this game. We've seen it looking over their shoulder as they're playing it. We've watched them build various structures in the game, but we don't know how it works. We don't know what the goal of the game is. Even as I'm sitting here after watching the movie, I don't really know. But one thing my wife told me that I thought was interesting that I also kind of felt is after seeing the movie, it kind of makes you want to learn a little bit more about the game because it is a pretty fascinating universe that was created here and obviously became a phenomenon over the last like 15 to 20 years. So Jared Hess is our director here, and he has directed such films, all of which I love, by the way, from the comedy realm, movies like Masterminds with Zach Galifianakis, Nacho Libre, of course, with Jack Black, and most notably, Napoleon Dynamite, which is honestly a cult classic at this point. What I loved about Hess's direction of the Minecraft movie here is that he really incorporated that kind of authentic, small town, almost retro vintage style setting to the real world aspects in Minecraft as well. The first like 30 minutes of this movie before we get into the Minecraft portal, when everything is being shot in this small town in the Midwest, it does very much look like the same type of town that movies like Napoleon Dynamite would take place in. And I love that kind of Jared Hess touch of cinematic value there as well. And then on top of that, I would say the performances really worked for me too, for the most part. I especially loved Jason Momoa in this. He plays a character called the Garbage Man Garrett. He was a video game champion in the 1980s and became famous in what would be the equivalent of like social media back then, with video game nerds and tech geeks in the 1980s because of his dominance in this one random arcade game. His character of Garrett is literally stuck in the mid 1980s, which is when it was the prime of his life and when he was his happiest. He has a bit of an arc too, which you wouldn't expect in this movie, that's kind of deep, dealing with his loneliness and him being unable to detach from that previous point in his life. He's just kind of living in the past. And I loved his character for the depth, but I also thought he was hamming it up, having the absolute time of his life. When I saw him turn up in one of the recent Fast and the Furious films, he was also the most memorable part of that film, and I could tell that he was having a frickin' blast.
Yeah, it's deep, right?
You're absolutely right, Bob. We should get back to work.
Such a stickler.
Delivering that material and playing that character, and we get the same thing here with the Garbage Man. He was my favorite part by a country mile when you're talking about performances. I also love Jack Black in the movie as Steve, who is the kind of constant default character for the Minecraft game. When you start playing the game, you're basically Steve. I thought it was a little unnecessary at first, especially when I was seeing the trailers, because Jack Black doesn't really look like Steve or what you would think Steve would look like in real life. And I was thinking to myself, why didn't they just have an animated block character of Steve, maybe voiced by Jack Black, but why Jack Black? Seeing the movie, it makes sense because he is so charismatic and he is so charming, and he's not really Steve at all. He's just symbolically Steve, but he acts as a bit of a tour guide of the Minecraft world. And as somebody that doesn't play the game, and I know that my son also enjoyed this aspect of it, it was cool because the movie, once they get in through the Minecraft portal, is basically Steve just showing you around the game. He's basically telling you what all the characters are, what they do, what their superpowers are, how you're able to build based on your imagination, how you're able to defeat bosses and get to next levels, and what happens at night when the sun goes down. All the various things that you would need to find out if you were venturing to play the game for the first time is really what the last hour of the film is, with a lot of action set pieces kind of mixed in to keep us entertained. Now, I really like that. I've seen that as a knock on the film from some people. But again, as somebody that doesn't know anything about the world, I kind of preferred it, and I found it very interesting, honestly, to kind of get these details. And then for my son to kind of lean over to me every 5 minutes or so and say, hey, Dad, this is from this, and I did this when I played this. And it was just really cool to have that connection from somebody that knew the game very intimately, and also me being able to enjoy it without knowing really anything about the game prior. Danielle Brooks was underused here, one of our great modern actresses. I was kind of wondering why she took the role to begin with when I saw she was cast, and I'm assuming it's the paycheck, but she was underused in this film. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more from her character and a little more depth to that character. She was basically just there to be another person kind of on this adventure to help them through various scenarios. And then there was this really weird storyline featuring Jennifer Coolidge, who is the principal of the school that Henry is attending, the new town they just moved to, which is fine. And she was hilarious in the role in the principal's office and had some kind of funny jokes about her divorce. There's also a little Jared Hessism in the way the teachers act at the school, because the science teacher, for example, is cast, and he's kind of like this hippie who talks with a lot of lingo. It's just very Napoleon Dynamite to me with those characters. The same thing could be said for not only Jennifer Coolidge's character as the principal, like I mentioned, but also Jermaine Clement is in this movie, and he plays like a bit of a wannabe popular guy who still kind of looks up to the Garbage Man Garrett, but he's way out of his element, and he runs like a storage facility, and he's basically just the epitome of like kind of a wannabe loser. But the way he carries himself is kind of hilarious, but also because it's Jermaine Clement. But the weird storyline is Jennifer Coolidge's character of Principal Marlene accidentally hits one of the villagers from the Minecraft game with her car, because that villager crossed over to the portal to the real world here, and which was fine. It was kind of funny. But then from there, we get like 3 or 4 more scenes where there's just like cutaway scenes to them starting up a romantic relationship, It's kind of weird. Like the first time it happened was like them at a romantic dinner, which was kind of funny. Like, all right, that's kind of cute. But then they kept kind of going back to it. And then we ultimately get to a point where like they're together and in love with each other. It was just a really strange, out of left field kind of side plot that had nothing to do with what was going on with our main characters. And Hess and the script would keep cutting away to that, I'm assuming for like comic relief. But we were really enjoying ourselves in the Minecraft world with this adventure that our main characters were taking us on. That I don't think we necessarily needed to do that, aside from maybe the one or maybe two scenes, her hitting him with the car and then them having a romantic dinner. And that would have been good. That would have been good. It would have been a cool goof. But they kind of kept that storyline going throughout, and it just didn't really connect to anything else. And the humor in it kind of wore out after that second scene or so for me, where it became a little more awkward. And like, maybe as an adult, maybe that's why, but I'm kind of like thinking of different things I shouldn't really be thinking about with those characters. Look, you're not going to get anything monumental here. And when it comes to a movie based on essentially a child or a youth video game, I don't know if you can do much better when you're talking about these big budget, heavy CGI films. There was some choppy green screen stuff in the movie, especially when they're like flying through the air and that kind of stuff. But I kind of expect that at this point. I think they did the best with what they could do, and a kid's not going to notice that stuff. If you play Minecraft, or if you've played Minecraft, you're going to love it for all the callbacks and kind of references. If you don't play Minecraft, at least speaking from my perspective, you're going to have a good time with this kind of fantasy video game CGI world adventure. And the characters being so relatable and honestly so funny and charming really helped me through the proceedings as well. I love pretty much everybody involved in this movie, but especially, like I said, Jason Momoa and Jack Black, as they really carry the material along with some of the really cool animation that we get in the film. So I know I'm apparently from the critical community. If you've seen YouTube reviews or you've read reviews online, probably a lot of them have been negative, because like I said, as I'm sitting here, it's at 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I really like this thing. I'm going to give it a good review, as I just did, and I'm going to give it a good score as well. A Minecraft movie from your boy is going to get a 7 out of 10 from me, which honestly really surprises me. But I'm just being honest with you guys that I really enjoyed my time with this movie. And knowing that my kids are going to watch this probably on a loop when it comes on demand or we buy it on Blu-ray, it's a good thing that I liked it. Are you guys checking out the Minecraft movie this weekend? Did you also enjoy the film like I did? Or do you think this thing was a pile of bricks? Sorry, I had to. Let me know down below, and thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys out here next time in the garage.